What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the last episode of Hollywood Already Did It for 2023, your movie podcast for reboots, remakes, sequels, adaptations, and why something worked once upon a time and if it'll work again. Is there relevancy? Why are we here? I think this is the episode for this movie because that is the question we have been asking since 2009. This week, the last giant theatrical release of the year, Avatar: The Way of the Water. After 13 apparently long-waited years by some fans and complete apathy by others, once again proving that modern movie fandom is just like sports, where now half of my feed is just people being like, see, we told you we cared, and other people being like, who cares? Like, just don't, go or don't. Go or don't. There's a lot of things you can do with 3.5 hours, but it's here, it's out. James Cameron has been on some like rap battle nonsense in every interview he's been in.
Every time he opens his mouth, I'm like, James.
I used to adore that man.
Yeah.
And now I just adore his movies. Yeah, let's get into it. What did you think of Avatar: The Way of the Water, Terrence?
The Way of the Water. So I have no affinity for this franchise at all. So the first film I saw the one time that I saw it in theaters, and I was like, oh, this is pretty. And then I've never thought about the film or gone back to it since that point. And I did not hate it at that point in time, but it's a lot like Cotton Candy for some films where I'm like, cool, that's adorable or gorgeous or like stunning or does something fun in the moment. And then when it's over, I'm like, cool, I'm never gonna think about this film again. And so when this was coming and this whole 13-year wait, I went in with apathy. I was like, I don't care about this film. I don't have much care about this franchise. I can only name one character out of that entire first film. Turns out, maybe 3 out of this one. It has not changed much. I've spent 6 hours in Pandora, and I can only name Jake Sully, and that's mainly because they beat that name into your brain. Spider, because he's the only human character in this film, and maybe Tunk, because I think they kept naming the baby kid. They kept saying that name a lot. Otherwise, I don't know anybody in this. And that's a big problem I have with this franchise. Look, this movie is gorgeous. There are some moments when my mouth is on the floor and I'm like, oh, we saw this in Dolby 3D. Looks gorgeous, stunning. Sometimes it's a bit jarring with the frame rate. It looks like you're watching a video game, just not playing it. And that is cool for like the first hour. And then that middle hour of this movie, the pacing for it really hit. And I was sitting there like, and I don't normally check my watch or look at my phone. I definitely did in this one because it's like, we got to get to the point. The story, the dialogue, some of the acting, I sat there and I was like, none of this is good enough for me to look at what I'm essentially watching is a tech reel. That's what it felt like. It felt like I'm watching a high-end tech reel. Now, that's not to say there's not some sweet things. I think the last act or last hour of this film is brilliant. When James Cameron gets in action mode and it's just going full on action, it's a fun ride. It's just a chore to get there. And I think the biggest piece that I have for this entire film is, in this franchise as a whole, when you don't have human characters or you don't have humanoid characters, your script and your story need to be so tight that I give a damn about these people, that I can enjoy, that I can kind of latch onto this. There is nobody in this entire film that I actually care about. When terrible things happen to people of Sully's family, I'm like, cool. I think this is where you're supposed to feel something. I just don't, because none of that feels earned. And I feel like I've spent more time watching the theatrics of how to make a film than actually watching a film. And that was my biggest takeaway. I just felt like, he did it again. Cool to look at. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I have such weird conflicting feelings about this movie and sort of the franchise as a whole, because I think, and we'll get into this when we get more into the meat of like, why are we here and why is this important? Because there's a part of me, when we get into what innovates film and what changes it, we can either have a new way to consume it with streaming, home video, IMAX, Dolby, all these things. We can do something new with storytelling, the MCU trilogies, prequel, about however you want to do it.
Right.
We can play around with genre, we can play around with characters, and then there's like the literal tech. And I go, well, we should every now and then just push it. Like, you're right, we are watching a sizzle reel essentially, and it reminds me of the best example is probably when they revealed the GameCube and I think the PS2, and they showed a tech demo for, I believe, a Final Fantasy VII remake or a Final Fantasy something. Nothing on either of those systems ever looked that good.
Correct.
And we didn't get a Final Fantasy remake until the tail end of the PS4. So, but part of me was like, great, yeah, like show me what a developer could do with this technology if we gave him infinite time and money. I don't think another studio is ever going to be able to do what James did. I don't think another director will have the time or money or energy. So it's a very weird thing of like, cool, this is the equivalent of going to like any con and seeing tech that won't be available to the general public maybe ever.
Right.
Like when you see those vertical TVs that are spinning and they're like, oh, we have chef robots now. And you're like, yeah, none of this is going to make it to market by the time I'm here. Like, right. We've been talking about self-driving cars since I was 17. Like, where's my car? Yeah. But that being said, there is something fun about every 13 years putting on stupid glasses and going on a ride. And like the Transformers ride at Universal or the Back to the Future ride or the old T2 ride, I don't care about the story or characters. And I don't even mean like, I don't care, I'm not connected. I mean, I don't care about
they're irrelevant.
Yeah, that's not why I'm here. All of that to say, I completely agree with everything you said. When we get to that action, it's awesome. But boy, did James Cameron hear that note. He heard everyone say, this was just Pocahontas and Fern Gully with blue people, and there's no story. And now there is so much story and lore and world building that I was exhausted. Yeah. I walked out of that theater, not just tired because it was 12:30, not just because I was in 3D and high frame rates for 3 hours, but because I was just like, okay, so hold on. We left the forest people because the guy was coming back, and he's back because the backup plan for the Marines was to have the Na'vi bodies, but they were able to back up memories, and we're not quite at human cloning, so we put the memories into the avatars, and now their mission is a revenge mission, and Jake's leaving for his family. But the water people don't know him, but he's a general. But now, and then we have to do exposition for how that world works because you have not been to Pandora in 13 years.
Entire sea world.
Then we have to learn the sea world, and I was like, oh my god, I need like this. There's so much. Everyone has a family, and we give each of these kids their own mini movie. When one of the brothers meets that whale and the whale talks to him, I think I audibly was like, come on, I have to do that. Not even because it was bad or because it wasn't working, but because
we're giving him an entire story.
I was like, we are 2 hours into the movie. I don't need to introduce any more concepts. Yeah. And like we meet the humans are still coming and they're whalers, and we have this knockoff Ulysses Claw, and then and then he has like a good guy on the boat who's like, we should be doing more, and this is why I drink. And I was like, I don't have time to introduce a new good guy. All of them should just be evil. Just make all of them bad.
Make them straight bad guys. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, and now Earth is out of resources, and so we're invading.
Our
but
lead
this
bad
thing
guy
in the
had a kid that he doesn't really have a kid of, and then the kid
that we didn't know about, but was on Pandora, and they can't cryo freeze them. So Spider had to grow up like the little boy in Wild Thornberries. And I just was like, God, I can't even register what's working and what's not. Yeah. And I was like, this could have been the 4 movies you keep talking about, James.
Yeah.
And I oddly want more. Like it did end, and I was like, all right, yeah, let's do one more giant, like a huge fight. Let's have all of Earth get here now.
Are there desert avatars too? I'm like, are we going to a desert world or a fire
yeah,
world?
do it like a video game. Bring me to the fire. Like, yeah, get me in a volcano. Show me
Yeah.
the red Navi.
Yeah.
Get me in the sky. Make them a little bit more green or something. They're doing
Yeah.
stuff with the wind.
Let's
Go
do it.
for it. You make this a Super Nintendo game. I don't care. I'm all about that life. You want to get some thunder ones? Yeah, go get some thunder ones. I think it's a good time.
Yeah.
But if I have to keep learning new gymnastic tricks every time,
Every single time. Yeah. It is a long road. And then there's some, like, there are things that just don't. It felt like the last act of this, the very tail end of the last 20 minutes of this was like, cool. Now we're just going to do setup for whenever we come back again. Because there are things that don't actually make sense from a character standpoint. Like what Spider does at the very end of this film and who he decides to save and go back to. None of it makes sense other than like, hey, we still need a villain for the next one. Let's do this again.
And it's funny because they start doing a lot of stuff like that. The Sigourney Weaver's character, who I loved both of the daughters. I was like, great, let's do this.
Yeah.
And it's wild because yeah, once we get to the back half of this movie, I'm like, this is all we could have cut 40 minutes off the top here. Mm-hmm. This is great.
Yeah.
We've got the human kid conflicted between his human dad and his Na'vi family. We've got the brother who thinks he's a failure trying to prove himself. We have the other brother trying to do his thing. Mm-hmm. We have the fun littlest sister who's just a delight, yeah, like just fantastic. The best.
One of the best line reads I've ever seen in a while. I was like, oh God, I'm tied up again.
I loved it. It got such a good laugh. And it was such a, like, clearly she just said that one day. And because it just felt like they animated this random insert to be like, guys, that was great. We gotta like, yeah. And we introduced all of that. We, Sigourney Weaver's character who has been talking to God. I can't think of the nature tree. Awa. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, oh no, actually, like she's having seizures. And a common thing with this problem is that you think you're having like religious visions. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, this is wild because like, this isn't some planet where they're like, maybe there's a God. Everyone can like click into this tree.
Right.
It's as if church was the Matrix exactly. And we just plugged into, yeah. So maybe she is, maybe. But we are doing like, I hate whenever, and I don't mind religious themes, but when we do really obvious religious imagery, especially Christian imagery, I get a little eye rolly. And when they were like, yeah, we found Sigourney Weaver's old avatar. We don't know how it got pregnant, but here's her character again. Yeah. I was like, no, like no, James.
They're like, we don't know who her father is, but who's her father? And guess about it. And they're like, it's not important. She was this baby just came from yep. Nope, I see what you're doing.
No. Yeah, I was like, I was like, this is worse than the spear in Batman versus Superman. But all of her stuff was great. The like little rivalry with the Water Navi's tribe when they go out and take him here. And it's funny because James Cameron, I feel like, has such a reverence for an older way of writing scripts that the biggest problem you get is everything he does is very tropey, but it's intended to be tropey.
Correct.
Because like that's the bullshit he loves.
Right.
So it is a lot of like, oh, they're gonna take him out, but now they're faking him out, and now the parents are gonna be mad, but he's gonna take the fall.
It's all written, like we all saw it. Like I know what the audience, no one was surprised by any sequence that happened there.
No, but except for when that action comes and that whale jumps over the boat. Then I was like, oh my God, this is why we're here. This is why we bought the ticket.
That is who James is. He's a 100% old school filmmaker. So he's using all of those old school tropes. And it's fine. I just think pick one of those and not 7 of them.
I was like, he wants to go make Elden Ring or like a video game. Like go make a video game, James. Just like,
yeah.
Clearly that's what you want.
That's what his goal is. Yeah.
But I mean, the guy is good. What he does, he's good at. Those action scenes, the ship designs, the plant life, when the water is lighting up and they're shining. Oh my God. Some of it
The
was
underwater
just.
sequences of this are stunning. Like I can see why he's patting himself. Like, yeah, we built a tank. We were down there with some. I was like, you know what, James? I see why you're patting yourself on the back, because it is gorgeous to look at. It goes on for too long, but it is stunning.
Oh yeah, some of it is just like, all right, bud, we got it. You did it. Like
the middle
the
of this
moon
film
landing was shorter
drags.
than this. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I think overall though, we all walked out of the theater with like, that was a good time. I'm tired, but it was a good time.
Definitely enjoyed this film more than I did the original. I like the original, though I don't really have a desire or need to watch it again. I was like, oh, that's a good time. That's a fun time. It is definitely a movie that when I tell people, it's like, if you're going to watch this, you need to watch this in a theater, preferably probably real 3D or Dolby. Like or IMAX. That's the sort of the way that this is intended for. But once you're out of it, once you're done, you're probably not going to have much reverence for it after that until you do this all again whenever 14 years pass again and we're on Avatar 4.
Yeah, I was like, I guess he says 3 is already shot.
He says
so
about 95%
maybe
of 3
like,
is done. Yeah.
I can't see it being another wait this long. I can't.
No.
Especially if it ends up making a bunch of money, then they're just gonna.
Yeah, I mean, not when you start dealing with kids too, and you're trying to continue the story on, you kind of got to get these under the gun pretty quickly before those massive age growth spurts start happening.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, yeah, I had a good time. The stuff that worked really well. It is just one of those movies where you're like, we could have scooped 30, 40, maybe 50 minutes out if we really wanted to.
And literally all I'm saying, like the stuff that I say get rid of is when I say, oh, this is literally just James saying, look what I can do. Look what I can do.
I was sort of like,
guys, stop.
Just get to the water people quicker. Like, we didn't need to spend 20 minutes in the forest if we're going to get out of the forest and never go back. Which obviously we're going to go back in like 3 and 4.
Right. And I think you do that because you are building a world, and it had been 13 years since we had been there. So there's a great deal of audience. There's an entire decade of kids who probably have no idea what that.
Well, and we have to do a lot of the like, oh, we had this kid and this kid and this one, and there's a real Brady Bunch situation going on here. Yeah. But yeah, all the character stuff really worked. I actually like, he's very, very one-dimensional still, but I really liked the villain. I don't know why. I think he is just so like, he's like a G.I. Joe villain. He's so over the top and dumb, and sometimes his lines are ridiculous. To have
villains that are just straight villains. He has some corny, just like, oh my God, this is definitely a 90s action villain that we have here. And I'm okay with that. I do think that they tried to give him a little bit more heart with the whole spider aspect of it. It like that works. I don't like how it resolves. It just doesn't make any sense, but I do like that. But I love that he's just straight. I'm just the villain. Like I also
like, I kind of dug like this. Jake almost has no story in this movie. The story is almost like the general is here for revenge.
Yeah,
that's the story. He wants revenge. Yeah,
he's the MacGuffin in this. Like they're literally like they are chasing him, and he has to move from one spot to the other. But he's not an actual character. His kids are more the character in this than he is.
Yeah, and I think that's by design. I think that's intentional. But I mean, some of his dumb movie moments, they work for me. When he's got the knife to her throat, and then Zoe Saldana with his son, and she cuts him a little bit, and you're like, how far is she gonna go? I thought we watched the child die. I was like, oh,
she just murdered that kid.
Awesome, I'm in. But a part of me was like, look, as long as I know I'm getting more, those are the kind of threads where I'm like, yeah, now I want to see this kid grow up and be like, hey, I saved my biological father, but like, you did almost murder me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, great, conflict. I'm in.
Yeah.
Even like the stupid lie when he's just like, look, man, I'm gonna hunt you, I'm gonna hunt your family, and he's like, well, then let's just get it done. I was like, yeah, that's the stupid kind of moment I love that James Cameron does. It's not the best line, it's not the best beat, but him just be like,
then let's do it,
fuck it. And I'm like, great.
Yeah.
And just so many, because he's so good at that 3D and the depth, and the water is so clear and everything's so crisp. there's like small moments in those action scenes that would have needed like close-ups. Like when that whale's doing that rope around and it's got the guy by the arm and you just see that arm fly off on that screen. You're just like, oh my God.
Yeah. No, it is. Look, that last hour, and I say it, I keep going back to it because it's phenomenal. The way it is shot, you are sitting there just taking it all in. There are things happening all over the screen at the same time. You're just like, I don't know what to look at. It's fascinating. That's really, when you know, like how James is like, oh yeah, you are really good at this.
I mean, he's a dick.
Yeah.
I don't like the things he says,
Mhm.
even though like I don't think at least that he said anything like super problematic, but it's just like, all right,
It's
buddy,
just
like
ignorant stuff that he keeps saying, like the pregnant women thing.
that was dumb.
Stop.
Like, and it's just arrogant. Like he's just
Yeah.
like, oh well, they'll come twice. I don't care if they go to the bathroom. You'll come back
Yeah.
a second time. And it's like,
Yeah.
all right, we can take it down
Calm down.
a
Right.
few notches. But I mean, the man knows how to, like, at his worst, you just don't like that type of movie. Like, you might not like the first Avatar or Titanic or True Lies, but those are all well-produced films.
Correct.
Like, I know it's like, well, it's just, they're like, yeah, fine. Marvel's made the same hero's journey 13 times, and we go to all of those. So whenever you tell me this is just Pocahontas, I will just be like, right. And Thor is just Iron Man, and Doctor Strange was just Iron Man, and Iron Man was just Spider-Man, which was just Superman, which was just the hero's journey. Let's all, we can all dust off our film degrees and wipe our brow sweat with it and say something reductive. But man, when that whale gets out of the water, I'm having a blast. Like, yeah, you're right. The story's not great, but did you see that whale get out of the water? Yeah. That was something else. And like, that's why it's moving on to kind of the why of it all, the relevancy. I feel like he has now tried to shoehorn thematic relevancy into both of these movies. He always tries to be like, well, it's about the environment and what we're doing to the environment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but James, is it?
Yeah.
Like, I understand that it's about, the soldier comes, falls in love with the planet and the people, doesn't want to do the thing he was coming to do. We're inverting Independence Day. We're going to go blow up their White House, blah, 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 blah. You do have kind of a use every part of the buffalo moment in this movie where we drill that little bit out of the whale and they're like, what do you do with the rest? Like, throw it out.
Toss it out.
And even like the villain of the movie is like, that seems like a waste.
Yeah.
That's a whale. Like that. Like even the villain is like, we can't think of one. We couldn't make a shield out of it or something. Like,
well, it's very interesting because the first one was literally like, all right, let's have these white people just go and tear up these indigenous people's world. Let's just go. That's what that film is. This one is a little less of that. They're like, oh yeah, we still want to do that. We still want their power. But now it's just like straight revenge. Like, nope, we'll burn every piece of island down for just this one guy.
Yeah, it's like a small throwaway line that's like, well, the Earth is basically done, except that no one needs to age.
That's a side story to the fact that we just want to hunt Jake Sully. They're like, yeah, we need this. We still need to be here. We still need to be. Earth is jacked, so we got to come and take over this land. By the way, murder this guy.
We don't mention unobtainium once.
Not at all.
That's gone.
Yeah.
Which is just wild to me that we're just like, no.
I mean, that was the biggest thing, but I guess because it was also the goofiest thing, people were like, we won't talk about it. It's gone.
I'm sure it'll all come back around. And it's interesting because he even in the Avatar one, he's like, well, the villain's supposed to be over the top. It's supposed to be a very post 9/11. I was like, yeah, but it's 2009, guy. Like, although Jennifer's body was the same way, and that was in 2008. When I went back, I was like, there is a lot of 9/11 stuff in this movie, and I get it, but were these written in 2002 and it just took us this long? We're in Obama's presidency now. And even with this one, he's like, it's going to really make you think about what you're doing to the planet. I was like, it didn't. No.
It did not at all.
But it's almost more interesting and more relevant in a this is why some people, not everybody, goes to the movies. This is the eventization
Mhm.
of it. Like, this is the big circus tent pole. Come see the craziest graphics in the highest frame rate in the deepest 3D one night only before we pack it up.
Right.
And I'm
You
like,
don't
yeah,
get these the film movies today. Like when I was a kid, younger, it felt like those movies were spaced out. We had like one big summer event filming, like, oh my God, I can't wait. Everybody would go to the theater, like, oh crap, this is what's happening. We don't get that often anymore. Those big spectacle films, they don't come around too often. This year, we've kind of been lucky, and we had two. Like Top Gun was the one at the beginning, and it seems like Avatar is sort of trying to come in with the back half. There are some movies that you sit there, no matter how you feel about them, no matter what, some people might, it may not be people's cup of teas. Like Transformers is not people's cup of teas, but it gets butts into the theater. And sometimes that's what is important, especially the way that the cinema and theaters are going right now. You need a couple of films that say, hey, we're going to bring them back in droves. And that's what this sort of does. It gives you that feeling that you kind of have like, it's a roller coaster ride. And that's what I'm here for. I can't get this at home. If I watched this at home, it wouldn't have done the same thing.
no,
I need to watch this in the
I never watched Avatar at home.
same.
I watched it in the theater, and then I went back for the IMAX re-release.
Yeah, right.
And was like, yep, that's how they watch this movie. This is a
Mhm.
theater movie.
Right.
It's also interesting because like this tech, I don't think will be available to
Anybody else.
time, like
Yeah.
time alone.
Right.
But when you kind of go back to the first Avatar and you think about the other big action movies around that time, The Dark Knight, Iron Man, things really got put in motion in a way that led to 2012 Avengers and everything else. And when you kind of almost look at Iron Man, Avatar, and then the Avengers, it feels like we started shooting action movies the way he made those characters move. Like there's such a kinetic move, we keep saying roller coaster, but there starts to be this like flow that we didn't really get. Like there's a lot of like Tony landing and then doing his thing. And a lot of the Dark Knight action is like, we're here and we're going to do the scene. And it's like after Avatar, and I don't know if it was like drones and techno cranes or what else became available, but you go into the Avengers and it's like, it's one fluid shot. The minute that scene starts, we're not doing a lot of like
it
cuts.
Doesn't feel cuts. Yeah.
We're doing a lot more like, oh, and now the camera's caught Hawkeye and we're going to watch him shoot his arrow. And that's now caught Scarlett Johansson. And it just kind of made, I was like, I wonder how much of that was everyone seeing that movie and being like, oh, well, we got to like step up.
Yeah.
At least how we're filming the tech we have.
It's always funny because when action movies don't do that, you can see all the reviews and it's like, I hate all these edits or quick cuts. I'm like, yeah, people have got sort of accustomed to like, I want to see these long, like, let the shot play out. Like John Wick is really good at it too, where it's like, we're just gonna let it go. Like we're just gonna go.
Yeah. I mean, you go back to like the Bourne Ultimatums, and it's just this shaky cam cut up. We're always like close to their face when I'm like, come out and let me watch them fight.
Yeah, let me
like
see it.
Go back. And it's funny because we did it in like the 70s with old martial art movies and even like Westerns where it was like, all right, get the white shot and like let them go for it. And I was like, yeah, let's get back to this. And I feel like it, like Avatar was one of the few that was the
missions do that too.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of them like now, and I feel like it was like jumping around to those trees is what kind of got it because you had to like, you're moving with the character.
Yeah.
And it so much became more about, I'm going to use video games again, but when you play an open world game, part of that fun is like, is it fun to get around this world? And when you're Spider-Man swinging around, it's great. And if you're doing something like even Elden Ring, you're just like, okay, I'm on the horse. So I'm just, okay, we're on the horse.
Right.
I really wish there was a fun, crazy thing like flying. And I feel like that's what James Cameron has always been good at, is part of his characterization is like the camera needs to be another Terminator. The audience needs to be a Terminator. The camera needs to move as if it's Arnold. The camera needs to be moving through these trees the way Jake Sully is moving through these trees. And then when you go watch like newer Iron Man movies, you're like flying with them. You're behind it, swooping around, and Mission Impossible. You're on that car with them now. Like it's almost what like the new God of Wars do, where it's like this game is one shot and it's never going to go away from it. And you just have this fluid motion the whole time.
Yeah.
And I do think like there's something to that. Like people get very hung up on just like, well, this doesn't do anything new or challenging or interesting. And I'm like, yeah, right. From like the story perspective, and it's not the deepest thing on the planet,
Right.
but like I've never seen underwater stuff like that. It
That
was like
looks like that.
it's like I was playing Mario Sunshine for the first
It
time, and I
was
was like, I didn't know you could do that. That's
right. I was like,
cool.
I didn't know that was possible. Yeah, like I was, especially considering we just saw like Wakanda Forever. And don't get me wrong, I think the stuff that Wakanda Forever does is fine with the Namor stuff. But this, you're like, oh, that's it on cheat mode. Like that's that's an entirely different situation.
It's so crisp and clear, and
right.
I think part of that is like, well, it's their water and it doesn't have our pollution, and
right.
But like every other water, like every underwater horror movie, underwater itself, the Abyss, like a lot of these, the Leviathan, a lot of these movies play in darkness because it's easier to do that. Even like Wakanda Forever, there were moments where I was like, it's really dark in this scene, right? And like most of Namor's world is like close-ups. Like we're doing some Robert Rodriguez shoot it tight if you can't get what you want.
Right.
And this, I just kept being like, wow, we're really just
and I felt like
in
I was
the water.
Yeah.
Like it's you can't watch Aquaman now.
No,
like
I know. I was like, I feel bad for Aquaman. I'm like, nope, sorry.
It's a feat. It really is. It's an interesting thing to be like, oh, say what you want, and it's getting positive reviews overall.
Yeah,
it has the same, cynical people that it's always going to get. Like that's just the world we're in.
I think you do have just people who just don't like these type of films,
right?
Like, even if it's not Avatar specific, it's just like I don't like the big spectacle films, so they always poo-poo it. Yeah.
And it's making money. It's not. It's. I guess I didn't really realize this until I was reading about it yesterday, but it's a higher opening than Avatar 1.
Yeah.
And Avatar 1 was just in theaters forever.
Well, and that was definitely at a time when there was way less things coming out back to back. Now, granted, they don't have much real estate. They have tons of real estate. There's not much coming out around it that's going to be competitive. They don't have another tentpole until February with Ant-Man. So they kind of have off to the races for as long as they want. They made 134 million this weekend in the States and 435 worldwide.
Jesus.
It's not, they were estimating around 150 to 175. So they fell below, but I don't think these numbers, they're going to be getting these numbers for a while now. They have a lot of pre-sales post next week once people are out of school. I also think people want to see this in the Dolby premium theaters. So if those are already sold out, I think they'll start watching them once they get those theaters.
Yeah.
Get access to those theaters. So I don't think see these numbers. Like, yeah, it's lower than what they expected, but I feel like this is going to have crazy legs.
It'll be around for a while, and then they'll just re-release it until it makes money.
Correct.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's like it has to become what, the 5th highest grossing movie of all time to make a profit. And even James Cameron was like, that's so dumb. And I was like, yeah, you spent the money, buddy.
Like, you spent the money as if you had a blank check. You were like Scrooge McDucking it over there. But like, yeah, it's like, I think 460 they're saying before P&A. So like, Jesus. Yeah, they have to make a ton. But I also feel like James Cameron doesn't care. He's kind of like, Disney, I don't care. This isn't my money. I'm just having fun. I'm gonna do whatever kind of weird thing that I have, and these people are gonna roll around with it and roll with me with it. And I actually kind of I respect that part of it a lot from him, saying, "Hey, I don't care if this makes money or not. I'm doing them. You guys told me I'm doing them, so we're gonna keep doing whatever the hell I want to do." And that's kind of ballsy. I do appreciate that.
I enjoy that he's become Tony Stark and is just like, oh yeah, no, I'm awesome. Who cares? Have you seen my movies? I can do and say whatever I want.
Do whatever I want.
Just like, all right, buddy. If I guess, why not? Yeah. I mean, it's 3 and 4 are in the pipeline unless this fails. He is just changing his mind every day.
I also don't know what considers this is failed. Like, I feel like Avatar 3, like he said, is pretty much in the can. Does this have to hit a certain number for Disney to be like, cool, we'll release that, or not? Like, I'm sure they have a sheet somewhere like we wanted to hit this before we can continue on.
Oh, of course.
That seems a bit redundant. I also think that like that 460 might include some of the shots that are for 3. So they might be like, hey, to make this money, both of these need to be released.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we'll see. We'll go from there, I guess, because he's just this is where he is now. We're not getting True Lies 2 or
I
another
think that's the
Terminator
one
from
thing that I
him.
really hate about the Avatars. Like, these movies are fine. I'm not going to watch them again, but I'd love True Lies. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. So as is Terminator 2. I hate that the prime of James Cameron is just being spent on this when I think he has so many other great original ideas in that head that I would love to, even if it's True Lies 2 or anything else. I was like, I just want you to go back to just, can you do regular, just non-blue people action? That's not these 3-hour epics. But I think this is James' swan song. I feel like he's going to live in this Avatar until the wheels fall. He's building his George Lucas Star Wars world. This is it for him.
Yeah, that is kind of the bummer where I'm like, oh man, I really want I just want one more big Terminator, True Lies, Aliens thing. I don't even know what it would be, but come on. Like, all right, I guess this is where we are. Someone else can go make those movies, I suppose. And I think that's our show, guys. That's 2023. I suppose we'll be back when Ant-Man. That can't be the next one.
It's probably something between it, but I know Ant-Man's the next big
sequel. So we'll be back in 2023. Thank you so much for listening. Leave us a review, subscribe, share it with a friend. I'm at As Always Blake. Terrence is at Terrence Tatum on Twitter and Instagram, and Hollywood ADI is the show on Twitter, and you can follow us there, and we will see everyone in the new year.
Happy New Year, everyone.